Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 14, England v the Barbars, where we'll be providing pre, half-time and post-match analysis as the 2017 Summer of Rugby kicks off. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Right, welcome back, England Rugby podcasters, and thanks once again for joining us. This is a slightly experimental episode in that while we'll be recording it live before, during and after the game, you will of course be listening to all of it afterwards. Will it work? Let's find out. Remember please to give us your feedback. Drop us a review, rate us on iTunes, and if you want to get hold of us on Facebook or Twitter, it's at England Rugby Pod. Same for Instagram, or you can check out the website www.englandrugbypod.com, where it would be great if you could subscribe to our mailing list. We don't sell anything, so we won't be hounding you with spam. It just means that we can see who our listeners are and thank you personally. Right, with Dan, the international man of mystery, about to head off on another trip to Spain this time, we've called up a replacement for today's action. Friend of the pod, Ben Cooper, or Coops, joins us today. Hello, mate.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to seeing how this pans out with Dan away. It'll be interesting.
Well, I'm not away just yet, boys. I mean, I've joined you for the start, but I'm afraid I will have to shoot off as soon as we finish this part to catch my flight to get a bit more well-earned sun in Spain. But I trust I'm leaving it in the capable hands of you guys to take on the match analysis. And Ben, good to have you on board, mate.
Thanks, buddy.
So Ben's going to be joining me to cover the half-time and full-time reports, but as you've just heard, Dan is here. He's managed to squeeze a few moments out of his busy schedule to be here for the opener. So before he does head off, it's obviously good to have him with us too, and obviously this is the first time we're having a crack at this with three of us. So let's crack on. This is kind of our first look, I guess, at this New England side. It feels a little bit to me like the start of the 2019 World Cup campaign. And I know that it's obviously not the team that we expect to see, but I don't know. There's just something about it. Six Nations was the Six Nations, and now I guess because it's a Lions year, it just sort of feels like things are starting to happen with a view to the future, which makes me kind of get quite excited about what's coming and how things are going to look come 2019.
Yeah, I quite like the look of this this team. There's a lot of, like you say, there's a lot of untested sort of talent within the team. So it'll be interesting to see how they pan out. For me, a couple that stand out that I'm really looking forward to see, Josh Beaumont, who's obviously uncapped. Ellis Genge, who I know has got a cap, but I think he's going to be really interesting to see. And from a backs perspective, seeing Lazowski in the centres, but also I'm quite interested to see how Nathan Earl does on the wing.
Yeah, well, Lazowski's obviously been on the fringes for a while now, hasn't he? So he's kind of he's got no caps, but he's been a kind of part of the squad for some time. So it'd be great to see him finally get a shot.
It's interesting because I think with Lazowski they've gone for almost a straight sort of Owen Farrell replacement, as in have that playmaker at 12, which I think probably a really good indication as to how Eddie Jones wants to play the game. So rather than having your crash ball merchants, you've gone for another sort of game maker at 12, which to me is fairly telling itself. And yeah, let's see how him and George Ford work out.
I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, we always knew he was going to be putting a fairly inexperienced team out. But you know, if you count Genge and Jules as capped players, even though they've got four between them, you're still looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 of the starting 15 are uncapped. 7 out of 8 of the finishers are uncapped. So only one of the finishers has got any caps. That's Wigglesworth with 27. You know, there's not a lot of experience in there, but there are some key guys in to kind of hopefully, you know, hold them together and be the glue. It'll be really interesting to see how they get on.
Yeah, the forwards, actually the forwards are the ones who are particularly uncapped. Actually, Coops, it'd be really interesting to get your take on this, being a forwards man yourself. So, I mean, do you think in the forwards, do you think we might be lacking a bit up front, or do you think that's still going to be a fairly strong side despite lack of caps?
No, absolutely. I mean, you've got Rob Shaw back from his little hiatus as captain. I mean, he's a strong leader. He does his job very well. He's got 6 uncapped players to look after. 5 uncapped players to look after when they take on the Barbarians, and they'll probably take a similar amount of people to Argentina. But as we all know, Eddie Jones is building a squad for the 2019 World Cup. You can't do that without bleeding players and experimenting. And I think coming up against the Barbars with all that experience but no time together, it would be an interesting thing this afternoon.
Well, that's right. The Barbars, I think, have got over 1,000 caps between them, the team that they're putting out. So it's, as you say, a lot of experience, but no time together versus not a lot of experience, but a reasonable amount. I mean, not in terms of what you'd normally expect from an international side, but, they've been working hard together for some time now in camp. So, fingers crossed they begin winning ways because, of course, with the Argentina tour looming, these are the guys that hopefully are going to go down and show us what we can expect come World Cup 2019.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think also it's a base to build on with so many England players having the opportunity to go to New Zealand on the Lions tour. Jones has got to get involved and set it and build on today and Argentina.
Yeah, what I'm going to be quite interested in, and guys, forgive me if I've missed something here because it's been a pretty hectic week, buying sun cream lotion and all that. But where's Dylan Hartley? What's he up to? Because I actually read an article also, not that recently, but about Lewis Moody saying that he reckons this tour might be the last time we see Dylan Hartley in a red rose top, full stop. So Dylan Hartley's sort of just been left out of the squad as a whole. Obviously, Northampton haven't got anything on this weekend, so it's not that. Do either of you guys have an idea why Dylan Hartley's not involved in any form?
Sounds like he's not been picked.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Maybe he booked a holiday. Maybe Eddie Jones has given him a well-earned break. But yeah, it is surprising not to see him starting at 2. And hopefully, Rob Shaw can carry the count for that. But I like the co-captaincy as well, with Rob Shaw taking the forwards and defence and Ford leading the backs in attack. An interesting setup, but I think much needed for all these uncapped players.
100%. I mean, that's exactly what Eddie Jones has said, isn't it? I mean, and you're right. It's kind of essential when you're blooding so many young guys all at once. You really need that leadership to be kind of spread out. And it makes sense to just break it down into an obvious two groups. There's Rob Shaw's got his work cut out because he's kind of the only guy in there with experience. Whereas obviously in the backs you've got Ford, but you've also got Danny Kerr, Johnny May to a degree, and Mike Brown at the back. So there's a few of them that can work together.
No, I'm looking forward to performances from Sam Underhill. I followed him closely at Gloucester. He then went across the bridge. And now he's back for Bath next season, but he'll be my one to watch if I'm honest.
What I think, and this is actually for me maybe a season or two sort of behind where it would have been really interesting. But what I'm looking for, so Coots, when you were saying about Sam Underhill, because he'll obviously be up against Stefan Armitage for the Barbars. Now, although the chat about Stefan Armitage wearing an England top's pretty much all but died, there was obviously a few years ago where everyone was saying, why the hell is this guy not being played? So I think having Sam Underhill and Stefan Armitage going head to head will probably be a really good indication of where Sam Underhill is in the sort of, how he is in his career and how he's going to move forward, because Stefan Armitage knows a thing or two about playing on the flank.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's an outstanding player, and I think his call to England probably came at the wrong time with Lancaster, and there might have been an Eddie Jones law to get him across along with a Benderman. I think the Barbarians today will just be a learning curve for all the uncapped players and a free lesson that Eddie Jones can draw from and teach the rest of the squad before they take off to Argentina. Everyone said what happened about what's with Wade not being included. Jackson Ray was mentioned from Saracens. Well, let's see what he does. He shook it up after the World Cup, and he's shaking it up now. And if these youngsters rise to the challenge against the Barbars today, then bring on Argentina.
Absolutely. I think the other big one, of course, is the injury list, which seems to be mounting. You got Denis Solomona, who I was really excited to see him in an England shirt. There's been talk about him for some time now, and we, with the try scoring machine that he is in the Premiership, it was going to be really interesting to see what he could do wearing the red rose. But not that we're short of wingers. But he, of course, has been. I don't know if he's ruled out of Argentina yet. He's certainly ruled out of this game today. But I know that there's huge doubts over his the chances of making the tour. And of course, the most recent news in Marchand and Hill both ruled out through injury. So another couple of Eddie's under-20 guys ruled out. So.
I'm absolutely gutted that Solomona's not playing. He was probably the player I was looking forward to most of all. Hopefully, like you say, hopefully he'll still make Argentina. But if not, that would be a real shame because I'd love to have seen him in England top. But, we are where we are. So there's still some real talent out wide, which will be interesting to see. And like we say, this is, as I think you were saying, Coops, it's going to be such a real sort of yardstick as to where they are when they're coming across for guys with so much experience and so much international experience. It could really be a baptism of fire for a few of these lads.
No, absolutely. I'm looking at the Barbars list now, and it's just a wall-to-wall wall of fame, so to speak. You've got Adam Ashley Cooper, 116 caps for Australia, playing in France currently. Fran Stein in the forwards, more importantly. You've got Dussatoir, Armitage and Issa in the back row. I believe that this New England setup will probably learn more with a couple of beers in the changing room after they've been on the field for 80 minutes than they have done in their careers so far. It will be interesting. I hope it will go back to the Gareth Edwards super try of the 70s, but no, it's just going to be an outstanding match.
The other interesting matchup, of course, is Alex Goode versus Mike Brown. Alex Goode is still very much trying to put his hand up and say, hang on, I still deserve a place in this England team. And as we've talked about, Dan, in past episodes, Mike Brown is that one player in the England setup at the moment that doesn't seem to have the competition that exists everywhere else on the pitch under Eddie Jones. So it'll be very interesting to see if Alex Goode manages to make Eddie take note.
Yeah, for me, I think Alex Goode is a brilliant player. I would be surprised if he gets a call up from Eddie Jones again. But look, you're right. Alex Goode has said he hasn't given up that hope yet. So I think you worded it exactly right. If he wants to be noticed, he's really got to step up and make Eddie Jones notice him. And I guess now's as good a time as any. Barbars match is never. It's never a full-on international, but if he comes across and does some pretty, solid play, maybe Eddie Jones will take note of him for future.
Right, that's probably a good place to leave it because, of course, game kicks off fairly shortly, and Dan, you've got a plane to catch, so we will leave you now with the anthems, or at least a pod-friendly version of them. And then, of course, by the miracles of media, we'll be right back with you for the half-time breakdown. So see you then. All right, guys, welcome back. First half is done. I'm here with Ben. Hi, Ben. How mate?
Hi. How you doing, guys?
So it's been an interesting first half. I think we all expected a big start from the Barbars. We got it. They look pretty typical of the Barbars. Pretty dangerous, running from underneath their own their own post. Right off the bat. I think about 3 minutes in, they they made a break for about 80 metres or something, didn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Classic Barbars. Great to see them limiting the kicking and just throwing the ball through the hands and keeping the game flowing. Good to see the spirit still alive.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want from the Barbars. But of course, it's one of those ones. It's always quite difficult for the team playing them because, of course, we're all watching England. A young side looking to kind of make a bit of a mark, and obviously it's important that England play as if this is a Test match. But it's always difficult to do that when the opposition are flinging the ball around like it's a sevens game.
No, absolutely. It's hard to read when you don't know where the next attack's going to come from, whether it be left, right, or deep. Obviously, the crowd don't want to see the entertainment, but Eddie Jones has told the boys kick if we've got the points, and that's how England should be approaching the game.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's exactly what they're doing. I think they're going about it the right way. There was definitely probably a few nerves early on as they just kind of, very young side, not a lot of experience, kind of just coming to terms with where they were and what this was all about. But they seemed to definitely have sort of settled down, I think, towards the end of that first half. We've obviously built a bit of a lead, which is great. And as you say, it's the try was lovely. We'll come on to that. But taking the points when they were on offer, George Ford, two from three, or three from four if you include the conversion. So he's never going to be our first choice kicker, but he's doing all right today.
No, and he'll have to do that job down in Argentina. So if he needs to get a warm-up game, if you will, under his belt, then more credit to him. I mean, as you said, it was a fast start. I don't know if that was a game plan to knacker out the older generation, but it did start with electric pace, including that 60 to 80 metre gain from the Barbars' own try line, which was ballsy to say the least. But no, and then we got on the points, and a great quick thinking from the back line. And great gas from Sam James with support runs from Earl. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Nathan Earl is one of the ones who's really sticking his hand up now, which is almost frustrating because wing's one of those areas that we don't really need any more competition in the England side. But I think he's definitely one who's saying, take note. I think that there was a lot of chat beforehand about Mike Brown versus Alex Goode. Alex Goode's looking fine, but I think Mike Brown is doing what Mike Brown does, and he's kind of justifying his position in the England side. Nice and solid, good leadership at the back.
No, very much so. Cementing his place, I think, because of his bossing of his two wingers and his kicking for territory. He knows what he's doing, and he's doing it well.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie said before the game that he was asked, who are the ones to watch, and of course he mentioned Sam Underhill and he mentioned Nathan Earl along with, and of course there are others, but clearly those are two that in his mind were worth keeping an eye on. Certainly Nathan Earl is living up to that. Sam Underhill sadly has gone off. I don't know whether that was HIA or whether he's been subbed off for. Is it Tom Curry or Ben Curry? Or
Tom went on. Ben's not showing today. Tom went on, but it'll be hard when they're both on the pitch to determine which one's which. I must say
Curry.
Yeah, Curry.
It'll be one of the two. But yeah, so Sam's off. I don't know whether that was an injury or whether that was tactical. I kind of missed that. That was about 36 minutes, so it might be that he's just trying to give them a bit more time on the pitch, or it may be that he took a bump and he just thought, well, let's get him off now and give someone.
Yeah, I think everyone was focusing on the cheeky tap tackle by Wiggy on his club mate Good.
Yeah, lovely.
We didn't notice Underhill go off.
And then the ref very quickly saying, "Oh no, he was definitely going for the ball. I think that's just a penalty because of course that was a yellow card any other day of the week."
Of course. But this is Barbars, and it's the spirit of the game, and
exactly.
it's going really well. Fantastic first half, if you ask me.
The Barbars are scrappy, but I think that's to be expected. There are moments of genius, but they're just not able to kind of put enough phases together to turn it into points at the moment, and I think that's probably quite typical of Barbars rugby, isn't it? If the moments of genius pay off, you get these amazing super tries. If they don't, you get amazing breaks for 80 metres, but you don't necessarily get all the way over the line. I think as long as England can keep their composure and continue to try and just work hard on the kind of the key aspects of the game, then they should be able to just keep the scoreboard ticking over. They can get a result and get out of this what they want, and the Barbars can entertain the crowd. And I think that's the key thing for England to focus on.
Yeah, 100%. I think Eddie will have them sticking to their game plan. Don't get flustered by them flinging it around or changing the pace. Stick to what we've talked about pre-game. Stick to the plan.
and don't waver. And then in the last 60, in the last 20 minutes, I think the fitness will come through and they'll be able to put a few more points on the board.
Yeah, couple of other things. So we obviously we added to that Underhill and Nathan Earl ones to watch list Lazowski, or how do you say his name?
Lazowski.
Yeah. He, of course, is
the
another
W
one
turns into an F.
Yeah, he's another one that's come off, sadly. I guess another one he's taken a bit of a knock, and I think we thought it was HIA. Has he come back on? I didn't see.
No. So he's gone off for an HIA and remained off. And Brown had that little one, which he typical of Brown, walking off the pitch going, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I'm absolutely fine. Get me back on the park.
He wasn't gone too long, was he? So hopefully nothing too serious for Lazowski. What else? Oh, so I just wanted a quick... So we talked before the game, and of course we were talking about the missing Dylan Hartley, and we were all jumping to conclusions that he'd been dropped and that maybe this was... Of course, we'd completely forgotten that he played in the playoff on Friday.
Yes, he was playing in the tight game against Stad.
We've seen him there sitting at Eddie Jones's right hand, clearly discussing the game. So he's obviously still a very key element of the England setup for Eddie Jones. So I don't think there's any danger of him going anywhere just yet. So yeah,
no, nothing to worry about
if we led anyone to believe that there was anything more to it than that. He was busy doing a job. That's why he's not on the pitch today. So yeah, anything else from the first half that you think is particularly worth?
No, I think obviously, like everyone expects, it's a warm-up game for Argentina. I think the youngsters are playing really, really well. I was expecting for the Barbars for one of their fling it around moves to leak a try, but the defence was solid. The set piece has been good. The youngsters have stood up at the scrum where I thought they might creak. So all round, I'm looking forward to the second half. Once the old boys get a little bit tired, see what England can bring out the bag.
Ellis Genge, with only one England cap to his name, is looking very comfortable in an England shirt today. I think there've been a few errors. There was that scrum early on where he got pinged and didn't seem very happy about it. But he definitely seems like he's really up for this.
No, and he's a great player off the with the ball in hand, running it forward.
Well, he was players player, wasn't he?
Did he get players
player? So
yeah. Young player.
That's,
when he came from
player, was he?
Bristol to Leicester. So he got young players player, and similar to Mako, can stand up in the scrum, and he's got some wheels for in the loose. So it'd be interesting to see if he has a little play in the second half.
Absolutely. Well, I think that probably is a good sort of a brief analysis of the first half. But we'll see. We'll see. Any changes to your predictions? I think. I had England by 5 before the game. I think Dan from a bar in the departures lounge somewhere, probably about 3 beers down, so probably hammered. I think had I couldn't tell whether he was saying England or the Barbars to win, but I think he had about a 40-point gap.
Yeah, no, it's like 42 to 35.
Was it? Okay.
Some ridiculous, and I went equally high with a 25-34. I'm reneging that, and.
Okay.
I think I'll go for 25-15 England at the final whistle, I think.
Yeah, well, I wasn't prepared to commit to a score. I just said 5 points. So. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think looking at the first half, and as you mentioned, as the tiredness starts to kick in, I think the England boys might just put a few more on, and it might be a bigger margin than perhaps we expected. But equally, looking at some of the genius that's coming from the Barbars, you just don't know if some of those convert to points. It could be a very different story. So
I mean, Alex King said in the first half that they're just lacking that final pass. It's going a couple of phases, a couple of passes, which I'll put down to a hangover on the Barbar side.
Probably,
and it's not crisp enough to finish it off. So maybe they'll shake it out at half time and put one on the board.
Great. Well, let's see what happens in the second half, and we'll be right back at the end to see how things went, whether our predictions came close, and whether England, if there's anything more of note to discuss at that point.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Speak to you in a bit.
Speak then. Right, guys, welcome back. That's the end of the match. Second half done and dusted. Pretty great scoreline, really, wasn't it? It was a really solid second half. I think it was probably a lot like we predicted. At the end of the first half. I'm obviously back again with Ben. Hi, mate.
Hello, bud. How you doing?
Yeah, good. I enjoyed that, actually. I wasn't sure before the game it's always a bit of an unknown, isn't it, when you've got a team like that going out to play, and you're kind of thinking you've got Lions coming up, you've got a slightly more experienced England, although not a lot more, going off to Argentina, and for some people I think it probably feels like a bit of a lesser game, but there was something in that. Just there was some of the performances from some of the younger guys just made it really exciting to watch, just to see what some of these guys are prepared to do in order to put their hands up and say, hey, look at me.
No, absolutely. And also the early try return from Adam Ashley-Cooper straight at the beginning of the second half really would have fired up the youngsters and made sure that they kept their heads in the game to get back into it and put points on the board. From England's learning curve, a well-timed try by the Barbars.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it's one of those where heads can go down, even though they were still ahead for people without the experience, for these young guys without the experience. But that didn't happen. They took advantage of the situation and said, right, this isn't going to impress the boss, so we need to do something else.
No, absolutely.
And of course, we'll come on to it. We'll talk about it now. Even Tom Curry, man of the match.
Yeah, good call, fair play. We were talking about it in the game, and you called it just before Mr. Goo did. So well done there, mate.
Cheers. I just thought he was just phenomenal. He was a turnover machine, no fear. At one point, I think he was in the line out. Dusatoir was trying to just give him a bit of a niggle. He was having none of that. He was shoving Dusatoir out the way. He's a man with 80 caps for France and a bit of a legend. Then the enormous Fijian, is it Takori?
Yeah, Fijian Joe, absolute monster of the game.
He started having a go, and Curry was like, no, you might be twice the size of me, but I'm not taking it from you either. And he started giving him a shove back and telling him what he could do. And this is an 18-year-old kid, and it's great because by all accounts, he's obviously the one that Eddie felt was just slightly ahead of the two of them, his brother Ben. But these guys, they've grown up super competitive. It's going to be amazing to see what happens when Ben's given his shot. Because if they are very similar, and as I understand it, they are, that performance from Tom, without question, is going to have shoved him right into the forefront of Eddie Jones's mind. And actually, looking at the England first 15, when everyone is around, the back row is one where the first choice back row for England is phenomenal. But in terms of the replacements, the ones who have been around for a while now, they haven't really cemented themselves as the obvious replacements. So guys like this coming through, this is one area I think where England, where there are definitely opportunities for youngsters to break through, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do over in Argentina and his brother as well. No,
yeah, exactly that. It's been shuffled around with injuries. You've had Billy, he took a knock in the Six Nations. We had Tom Wood come in. The Autumn Internationals for Billy, and it hasn't actually settled into a definitive three people in the back row, which gives the Curry boys every opportunity to put their hand up. Again, also on the subject of fronting up, Ellis Genge, one cap under his belt, little bit of a handbags at the scrum, and he's like, I'm here all day, don't worry, I'm not going to run and hide, this is not the place to do it. So it was very encouraging from the youngsters today.
Well, my standouts from the first half were Nathan Earl, who I thought had a great first half. Not that he had a bad second half, but I think there were other people shone in the second half. Nathan Earl first half and Ellis Genge throughout the game, but in particular in that first half. And then, of course, second half, Tom Curry ultimately winning him the man of the match. And Mark Wilson, who I don't know anything about whatsoever, but he just... He was solid. I mean, is he even? He looks about 40, so I don't know if he's one of the youngsters or if he's just a newbie. But he looked pretty solid too. Some really good running from him with ball in hand up front.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think Earl had a great first half, and they didn't get the ball to him in the second, so he put his marker out in the first 40 minutes. Curry then came on and put his mark down in the second 40. Genge had an all-round good game. I couldn't agree more with that. And I think the youngsters followed the Johnny Mays, the Danny Cares, the Rob Shaws, and they followed the leaders, and they did particularly well. 1 point of play, I thought, 50th minute. We had a solid scrum. Then we got a penalty there, kicked for the line out, took a driving maul from said line out, and then Ford, with one of the best kicks out of hand I've seen him do in a while, stuck us right 5 metres from their try line. Phenomenal passage of play.
I mean, that's one of the things with George Ford, isn't it? He'll go and have a 60% kicking game when he's kicking for posts, and and people will sort of go, "What's he doing in the England side? You need someone who can kick better than that." But his kicking from hand is just phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great vision and a great team effort.
Yeah, it can turn a game. So I think when you've got Farrell alongside you to kick the points, and obviously kicking from hand and everything, and everything else that he brings to the game, there's definitely still a place for Ford. And I like what Eddie Jones is doing. Things can change, and they may well change, but I think Ford, is definitely saying, look, there's a reason I'm here, and I'm not planning on giving it up anytime soon if I can help it.
No, with that in mind, with Ford, again, the Barbars used his channel to bully him, if you will, but he was well protected by the back row, and they didn't get through. They had to wait until they got to the second or third phase to get it to the centres and out wide to really break England's defence line. So they can run at Ford all day long. He's protected, and he's done it for England in the past. So it's good that they're all coming back to Eddie's kind of format, and look forward to seeing them do it in Argentina. It's going to be a pretty good tour, I reckon.
I completely agree with you. And I think actually as well, credit to Ford, he's taken a lot of abuse for his defensive abilities. And it's not always pretty, but today he did a pretty good job of making his tackles, even if it did look like he was getting walked all over every time he made one. He clearly went out there going, I cannot let people through me today. And fair play to him. He held on to the legs of those that were trying to run through him when they made it through the gaps.
Yeah, probably screaming for backup as he hit their knee on the way down. But he definitely gets in the way. He does his job, both in attack and defence, and he does get scrutinised. But hopefully he'll have a blinding tour down in South America and wrong his critics. A couple of other points I picked up from it. The McGuigan guy, the guy came on to hook, I believe, was a bit of a nuisance. Nearly got himself a third warning, just being obstructive and a bit of a pointless and warned by the ref. But also the pressure from England in defence from our 5 metre line back to the 22. Just the youngsters just on top of the Barbars, not giving them a chance to think where they're passing. It was again very encouraging.
Yeah, we didn't have a great midfield today. I felt it. They obviously didn't do a bad job because it wasn't like holes were getting punched all day long, but there was no standout, which is not the worst thing because we've got quite a lot of options in the midfield when everyone's fit and healthy, but no one really stepped up and said, they'll have other opportunities, of course, in Argentina, but today I felt that
our centre, so there's no Jonathan Joseph kind of explosive centre going on today, but we were brilliant all over the park, and I feared our youngsters up front might get a bit of a lesson, but they were absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and did the Rose proud.
Definitely. I thought so. A couple of things. So we talked about Ellis Genge and the kind of the aggression, and it was really good to see. Like you like that, but he's definitely one of those that's kind of on the line. I think he needs, maybe that is him controlling it, and he can kind of hold on the line. He's not new to rugby, but he definitely comes across as one of those guys that could take that extra step, go a little bit too far and cause problems. Yellow cards, giving away penalties and things. So hopefully he just manages that, because you don't want to lose the aggression, but you don't want it to go any further than that, I think.
Well, if Hartley's next to him in the front row, he'll keep him on a leash, because obviously Hartley was like that when he was a bit younger.
Absolutely.
Hothead Hartley, I think his nickname. And the Argentinian pack and front row particularly are snarly and aggressive. So if there's going to be any pack that will get under his skin, it'll be them. And if he comes away from Argentina without any cards, then he has learned his lesson for the future.
Absolutely, it will be definitely a great lesson learned. I thought Johnny May, yes, he had a few moments of Johnny May-esque genius, I suppose would be the word. But I'm not convinced that he did any damage to the other England wingers today.
I think Watson, Noel. I was watching Noel in the Exeter game, incidentally off topic, but he was just absolutely everywhere and brilliant.
I completely agree. And when you've got Elliot Daly out there as well, and then this young Nathan Earl coming through and saying, "Look at me," and Nathan Earl outperformed Johnny May today without question. So I think he's probably not one that they need to worry too much about. And regards to the kind of question, and we talked about it in the first half, stands in the second half, Good versus Brown. Brown stepping up and saying, "Nah, this is my position, and here's why."
Yeah, good luck getting it back, getting in the way of me, mate, because he did have a great game leading from the rear.
Yeah, absolutely. So all in all, I thought it was a great England performance from a really young side. Hats off to England. It was that was a Barbars side with 592 international caps in their starting 15, and an England side with about, well, I mean, probably a bit more than 12, but there really wasn't a lot of experience in that England side.
No, eight uncapped players started. More came on, so really, really encouraging. I think Josh Beaumont needs a bit of a mention. He played the full 80 and did a grand job.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, he did.
And I don't know why he hasn't been selected before. And we'll probably talk about Wade and Jackson Ray long into the future.
And Rocco De and of course the people missing, people like Denny Solomono. It's another one. You kind of don't even want more wingers, but.
Absolutely.
They seem to be just kind of crawling out of the woodwork. They're all over the shop. So it's not a bad problem to have. It's a good problem to have for England, but tough times ahead for Eddie Jones in picking the team that's going to raise the Webb Ellis Trophy in 2019 for sure.
Of course they are, and on the back of that, I think Wade and Ray will be like, I haven't got a chance really. Everyone that's been chosen in front of them for their position, Earl
stepped up.
and Curry.
Yeah.
Particularly stepped up, and they're probably going, well, I'll stay at club rugby and just boss that.
Well, I hope that Eddie Jones has shown that he's not afraid to drop players. He's not afraid to mix things up, and I hope these guys look at it and go, there's always an opportunity in an Eddie Jones side. If you're performing, Eddie Jones completely wrote off Tom Wood, didn't he? And then about 6 months later, he brought Tom Wood into his starting 15. So it can be done, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's certainly not been made any easier. And for people like the likes of Christian Wade, who seem to be kind of scratching their heads, going, "What else can I do?" It doesn't help when the guys that get in ahead of you have such strong performances.
No, really, a really, really good performance. I'm looking forward to Argentina. I'm looking forward to the Lions. It's just going to be a great summer of rugby.
Yeah, I mean, the England pack work rate was phenomenal today, and of course, Rob Shaw was the only capped player in there, so that's massive credit to them. Because as you said before the game, and rightly so, the pack was the one area where England really looked like they were, where the Barbars really had the advantage. So fair play to them against the experience of the Barbars to just step up and perform like real internationals in a Test match. And yes, it's a Barbars game, and with that comes a different type of rugby that does create opportunities if you're playing sensible rugby.
Yeah.
And they took those opportunities. So there'll be arguments to suggest that it wasn't a true test in that respect. But you play the game that's in front of you, and they did that today, and they did it incredibly well, I thought.
Yeah, there'll be show reels that Eddie will show of a much more structured Argentinian team. But one thing Barbars is not is structured. It was fling it around and just live on the balls of your feet and make a mess of it. So no, they did particularly well. And when they go to Argentina, it will be a different game, but I think they'll do really, really well.
Definitely. Well, that's great. To you, massive appreciation for stepping up when Woodrow decided that he had better things to do out in Spain.
He's just never in the UK. I reckon he's got a tax issue or something.
I hope his flight was delayed hideously, and he could have watched it after all. But I'm sure he'll have a great time, and I'm sure he'll be back, and I'm sure we'll be having you on again, because it's been great having someone to step in on his behalf.
Absolute pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much for having me.
No problem. You're very welcome. And guys, thanks so much for listening. As I said at the beginning, it's a bit of an experimental episode that we've gone with today, but I think it's gone all right. It's been a good opener for this new campaign that I feel like England are on at the moment, or in part of at the moment. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed listening. As always, don't forget to rate us, to review us. And you do that on iTunes. Check out the website, www.englandrugbypod.com, where we've got lots of what's going on, what's upcoming, and so on. And you can get hold of all the past episodes down there as well. And of course, on social media, if you've got any questions, it's at England Rugby Pod. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But yeah, that's it from us. Enjoy the rest of your weekends, and hopefully we will see you back on Tuesday, where we'll be analysing the big Billy Vunipola and discussing his injury with the first exclusive interview with the Pod Doc. So tune in to check that out.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Take care.